Hello everyone, this is Divya on behalf of India Warehousing Show, and I would like to welcome you all to the Great Leadership Series hosted by IWS. As we all know, IWS is India's leading platform for the warehousing, logistics, material handling, automation, and supply chain sector. Over the past 11 years, we've brought together thousands of buyers and sellers from these segments to explore new business, learning, and networking opportunities. And this year, we look forward to seeing you all at the 13th edition of India Warehousing Show on 11th, 12th, and 13th of July at Yashobhoomi, Dwarka. Today, we are honored to have with us Mr. Karan Vohra, who holds about 8 years of experience in end-to-end supply chain, right from manufacturing, production planning, as well as customer service and logistics. Currently, he's working with Colgate-Palmolive as a supply chain manager, customer service, North India and Nepal. A seasoned graduate from prestigious institutions like IIT Varanasi and IIM Mumbai, he is one of the recognized top voices in the industry. Welcome, Karan.
Thanks, Divya, for the introduction.
So I would like to, start with few of those questions that are, most pressing in today's time. So the first would be, how do you see artificial intelligence impacting warehousing and transportation? How has it transformed the life of a supply chain manager?
Yeah, first of all, Divya, let me thank you for this opportunity for inviting me for this interview in the learning session. It's always a pleasure to be a part of such events. To take up the first answer, look, artificial intelligence is a transformative technology, but it's at times quite intimidating and a little overwhelming for people who don't really quite understand it. So what I'll do it and I'll try is to simplify this a little. And for the audience, I'll try to break this question into small parts and try and explain that how it is relevant from a warehousing and a logistics sector point of view. First of all, we need to understand what artificial intelligence is all about. It's actually the capability in a machine to, in parallel, act like a human. Now, imagine it in this way that when we go to school, we learn from textbooks, we learn from our class teachers, and then we read and we revise it, and then we are ready for some examinations. In a very similar manner, your artificial intelligence is when your machine learns from the data that has been input into them and from the internet. And with that continuous learning, they develop an ability to give you the right direction and propose the right forward actions to be taken and help you in your decision making. So artificial intelligence is nothing but a partner to you who acts like a human and helps you solve critical problems. With that understanding in place, let's move on to how it's going to impact into warehousing and transportation. Let's divide the entire warehousing operations into 5 major processes. There's nothing out of syllabus in out of those 5 processes. The first one being your unloading. The second is your put away operations. The third is your order processing. The fourth one is your picking. And the fifth is when you dispatch your goods. In certain cases, you'd also do some co-packing or kitting activities, but let's keep that out of scope. But let's understand how artificial intelligence is helping us in warehouse processes. In unloading, when we talk about unloading and loading operations, there are a lot of automation techniques that people are experimenting with, and there are certain success stories on that as well, wherein things like conveyor or automatic cobots and robots are able to unload cases from the trucks. Such technologies are getting evolving and are even progressing. Now, let's move into the put away and picking operations. I think that is one aspect and one area wherein AI has a massive role to play. Because from a put away operations point of view, it helps you understand that what exactly should be the best location for your goods inside your warehouse. It helps you optimize your resources. When the order gets processed, it tells your labor what is the best route to traverse inside a warehouse so that you get your maximum productivity and helps you optimize your resources. Apart from that, in case of inventory management as well, it can support you understand from the test data and the learning data that has gone into it, that what would be the ideal inventory norm for any particular SKU, whether your SKUs may be short supplied or are overstocked, and helps you make the right decisions in case of your inventory management. So helps you better be more productive, add more value at a lesser cost. And that's where AI brings great value to your entire operations. Now, moving to the transportation sector, it can help you really identify how your truck utilization is currently positioned and if there is an further optimization lever or an efficiency lever in your loadability of your trucks. When your truck moves for your distribution across the country, it can learn based on the learning data sets. It can help you identify what's the best route that you can take or adopt for your distribution. For example, it can help you understand that in what hours is your maximum traffic. It will help you navigate through the other possible routes and tell you that, okay, this is not the right time to dispatch. Let's use that time into something else. And this is where such artificially created intelligence are helping humans to make the right decisions. It has got nothing to do with taking away the jobs, which people are pretty much scared about.
Right. I think this was maybe, the best way you could have answered it, simplifying for the audience so everybody gets a gist of what really is AI and how it's helping. So moving on to the second question, I would, like to ask you about what you think, the government policies contributing and, how significantly they're contributing to the growth of the industry overall.
It's a very great question to ask. But let me just put it up and start with putting up certain statistics into picture. Let's begin from 2014 and where we are into 2024. A 143% whopping increase has happened in the kilometers per day construction of your national highways. We are today sitting at 28 kilometers per day construction of national highways. And it also reached to an extent of 38 kilometers during the COVID times, but that can be treated as a slightly exception because then there was a very little mobilization on the road and there was an opportunity which the government actually leveraged. But the 2024 target for the government of India is to take it to 34 kilometers per day. While we are speaking today about every single, we have a total infrastructure at India which spans about 67 lakh kilometers of the total road infrastructure. If I talk about, that's the second largest in the world. And very soon, I think, if I'm not wrong, in a matter of a year or two, we'll be the world's largest road infrastructure we'll be having in the country. So these are phenomenal figures. And it's how is it happening? I mean, we need to understand what's the process. It's not happening by magic. Right? There's a complete process associated with it. And let's decode that process for the help of the audience. In the year 2021, the Prime Minister's Gati Shakti National Master Plan came into picture, which was followed in 2022 by the National Logistics Policy. What's that? Your Prime Minister Gati Shakti Master Plan is a massive software program which helps establish coordination over 20 plus ministries in a single interface. Now, earlier, what used to happen was there was a gross mismanagement in terms of how these ministries used to operate. And I'll help you with an example. There were certain roads getting constructed by the National Highway Authority of India, let's say. But then some other ministry would understand and would realize that, okay, we need to have a telecommunication cable and an optical fiber to go into that area. And then that ministry would come, dig that road, put up the optical fiber and reconstruct that road. And then on the third, sometime later, your maybe gas pipeline commissioning comes into approval. And then that road gets again destructed. You put in your pipelines and then you reconstruct the road. Now, who's losing and who's winning in this case? The only person who's winning in this case are your contractors, but who's losing is your nation and the taxpayer whose money goes into construction of these roads. And at the end of the day, our aspiration was to make India the manufacturing hub after China as an alternate. But unfortunately, what was happening because of such gross mismanagements between lack of coordination between the ministries, that a major chunk of the manufacturing setup was, instead of coming from China to India, was going to Vietnam and Bangladesh and other countries, even Thailand as well. Now, with that focus in mind and setting up that priority, the Ministry of India formed that Gati Shakti Master Plan, wherein all the ministries will now be able to look at the projects running in parallel across the ministries in a single interface and take decisions in a very cohesive and a collaborative manner. Now, this has followed with National Logistics Policy, which I would be explaining it to you now. Now, National Logistics Policy, the intention behind it is to reduce the overall cost of the logistics as a percentage to GDP. We are currently ranked somewhere about 30 to 35 in the world cost index, with the total 14% of your logistics cost with respect to the GDP. But the eventual goal is to cut down that cost from a double digit and move to a mid-single digit. And that's the target that government of India has taken for the year 2030, and we are really progressing towards that. And for that, they have put that unified linked interface, wherein tomorrow, let's say that you have to book, you have to move your goods from source A to destination B. You can really go into that application or the interface, and just by putting the type of good that you want to ship and inputting what's the source and what's the destination, that application will be able to tell you what's the best manner in which you can ship, who can be the best player who can help you do that, what is the right route to take that, whether it's going to be a multimodal manner through trains, through roads, or through a mix of them, is something that will become suggestive to you instead of you pre-deciding for yourself. And that's what's going to help cut down the logistics costs. So better infrastructure in terms of road, railways development, 100% of electrification has been targeted, and I think it's going to get achieved very soon. And with the coastal inputs that are going to come, will eventually help us achieve those targets of meeting the goal.
Right. Right. So the way you tied the times from COVID and the recent times and how it's important to be cohesive and collaborative, I think this is going to help us understand all of the ways the government and the policies are working towards the betterment of the industry. So moving on to the next question. I mean, robotics. It's this buzzword that young entrepreneurs and the future, everybody uses this. So what do you think are the three key things that a student who's trying to start his or her career in the supply chain or the logistics sector, what do you think are the three key things they should keep in their mind?
I'll go back to the days when I graduated. In those days, there was a very prevalent saying कि computer science का बहुत scope है. So one should always take that. But the fact of the matter is that the same line still holds true when we talk about the technology evolution, when we talk about electronics and communication, if we talk about computers application. These three roles are here to stay, and only their roles is going to expand. But for the students, one of the few advice that I would still want to give is that supply chain is a fantastic sector to really get into, because the scope is immense in this for you to succeed. I would certainly call not even a decade, but in the span of next 5 years or 6 years itself, you would see this sector transforming at a rapid rate, which would be unprecedented. Uh, and and hence, from robotics is something that you put up a question to me, and bringing back the discussion to that context, we do not really need a solution in robotics which is a toy-like solution. When you are pursuing robotics as your passion and when you're pursuing it into academics, it cannot be restricted to just a project for display in an event. Industrial robots are way more advanced, require much more high skills, much more perseverance, and a lot of efforts. Because when you talk about robotics in industry, you just cannot afford to go wrong with it. Because if your robot stops working and if there is a breakdown in the operations, it completely translates into money and the business opportunity that gets lost. So hence, I think having a very focused approach, if you're planning to pursue career in this, immense opportunities. There are a lot of companies which are working in this sector, but the logistics and warehousing is going to go transform itself, and a lot of adoption in robotics is going to get displayed, and hence the right skill set is an absolutely must from both the end user and for the student community as well. And that would be my advice.
I think, supply chain and logistics is as important as, digital marketing and all of those computer science things. That's what I gather from your, response to this very important question today. So last but not the least, I think, sustainability has been a part of our conferences every year. And I would just, like to ask you one question. What do you think about sustainability in a business? How does this impact the growth of, an organization in the Indian business scenario?
Divya, this is a topic which is very close to my heart, and I can actually keep talking about it throughout the entire day, and, I won't fall short of content on that front. But just let me summarize it a little. Sustainability is an absolute non-negotiable priority now. Not that it was not earlier, but I think the focus of the entire, not only company, the entire country, the entire world has drifted magnanimously towards sustainability of late. And it is the need of the hour, and people have risen to drive that agenda. Now, a lot of, I think, a lot of countries have this target of going to net zero carbon by 2040. India, particularly through Niti Aayog, has this target of achieving net zero carbon by 2070. It's an easier said than done kind of a target. It's very ambitious, but a lot of work is happening in this sector to get the right sustainability into picture. For example, the usage of alternate fuels is a great example, and the rapid rate at which that adoption is happening. Today, 5% of my total automobile sector in 2023 exit is electric. But with an expected CAGR of 50%, by 2030, we are expecting somewhere close to 40% of my total automobile sector to be electrified. Whereas the overall automotive sector in itself is going to grow at a nominal growth rate of 8%. But that's pretty much an indicator that the kind of study that's happening towards alternate fuels, you have LNGs, you have electric, you have multimodal transportation, how the railways are going to evolve over the year, and the usage of goods transferred through railways from a percentage point of view today lags at somewhere around 18%, but that we see growing up. But there are, I would not still deny that there are no challenges. There are challenges associated with it, but it would definitely be a very long topic to talk about in that case. However, one point which I would also want to add on is that people need to have an end-to-end sustainable mindset. It cannot be electric just alone, standalone, because if you see in the overall value chain, the carbon emissions in an EV is slightly at par or slightly more with respect to your IC engines. But if you combine that electric with a renewable source of electricity, that is when you say that you are electric in an end-to-end manner. Hence, your solar combined with electric or alternate fuels is going to drive sustainability, bring down that goal and objective towards net zero carbon by 2070 and maybe a little earlier as well. That's going to help you. And but apart from that, sustainability also has a very integral, important part in having a social impact. It's not only about conserving the environment, but as a community, how you are doing, making an impact in society also forms a part of your sustainability, your mental well-being, how you are engaging your employees to have a better work-life balance, again forms a part of your sustainability, and you need to organizations need to think in that direction as well to achieve the goals in holistic manner.
Right. I think it's great how you just tied in the mental health of the employees along with the health of the organization. So thank you so much for sharing your valuable insight today, Karan. I'm sure this discussion will benefit and enlighten our audience in the best way possible. And we look forward to seeing you and continuing this discussion at IWS again, this time on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of July at Yashobhoomi, Dwarka.
Thank you, Divya, for having me. As again stating, it's always a pleasure speaking with RX team, and look forward to participating in the IWS in July. See you all there.
Thank you so much, Karan.